be able to see the pretty graphs or the beautiful pictures of Lingbia, and I'm very sorry for that. But they'll put the presentation online so you can go and see the slides. The worst part is going to be that I was going to have a big reveal of the treatment sites tonight with our QR codes. And so if you are interested, at the end of this presentation, I'll put my computer up and you can come up and click the QR codes, so at least you can have them when you leave. John, can I have my computer?
Are you gonna say?
Well, I'm going to start off by talking about the volunteer survey and what an amazing job you all did this year. We had over 200 volunteers. We had over 500 hours. You guys collected almost 6,000 points. And I know I say it every year, but it is unbelievable the amount of data that we get and how robust a data set we get from you guys volunteering. So it is super awesome, and I really appreciate it. And I'm always excited to see what y'all are finding around the lake. And your nice comments of seeing an otter or an eagle. You never know what's going to be in the other column. Let's see. So this year, our aquatic plant community looked pretty much what we expected. Our two noxious species, Lingbia and Hydrilla, they went up 1% and 4% within the population, which is great. The big thing that we saw this year was an expansion of southern naiad, and it went up 11% from what we were seeing last year. And if you can just picture a map up here with lots of dots around Pea Hill, and on the southern shoreline, that's where you would find the southern naiad. And we had a lot of calls this year thinking that it was Hydrilla. And the pictures confirmed that it was southern naiad. So little point here, if you use that aquatic report form that's on the Weed Control Council's website, and you send in the information, please be sure to send in a picture, because I can verify real quick naiad or Hydrilla. And when I'm making my treatment maps, this year especially, I kind of relied on if I had a picture to verify that it was actually Hydrilla in that location.
Out of the water on the dock.
Out of the water, yes. Where you can actually see the stalks and the leaves. Hydrilla is going to be really robust, and the southern naiad is limping compared to. Water willow is the #1 species. If you've been at the lake, you probably know that. And it represented 60% of our plant community. It's about at 60%. So our #1 most abundant species would be water willow. Picture a map of Lake Gaston up here, and there are green dots all over it. And there you go. Our second most abundant species, southern naiad. Again, Pea Hill, lower shoreline. Lingbia was our third most abundant. I'll talk about that a little bit more in our management section. Cara, our native macroalgae, was fourth, and then Hydrilla was our fifth most abundant. So last year, for our Hydrilla management, we treated 204 acres, and we didn't stock any grass carp. Now remember, the grass carp stocking is based on a model that was developed by the Wildlife Resources Commission in North Carolina. And so the model didn't suggest stocking, and so we just targeted with herbicides last year. This year it's going to be a little different. We estimated a little over 450 acres of Hydrilla. It represented about 10% of our total vegetation. We have a map up here. They would just kind of be red dots all over, sporadic, like paint. Now they're getting some great visuals tonight, aren't you? So, if you saw this graph, it would show that has been an increase in the last 3 years in our Hydrilla population. But that may not be reflecting the population as much as we have a new survey method that we have rolled out, and we have a kayak survey team. And so this team is able to get in that really shallow water that survey boats previously couldn't get to. So we're identifying shallow water populations. Now that's great for distribution, but we kind of handle it a little bit differently when we're talking about management. So this year, we are going to target 326 acres with our herbicides, and we are going to stop grass carp this year, and that's going to be about a little over 1,300 fish are going to go in the water sometime probably soon. And again, I have a QR code up here. I will put at the end. You can click on it. It'll be an interactive map. You can literally zoom in to your property and see if you're inside a yellow polygon or outside. If you're inside, you're being treated. If you're outside, then you are not. All right, moving on to Lingbia. Last year, we targeted 477 acres for treatment. And this year, we have an estimated 818 acres of Lingbia within the system. Represents about 17% of the vegetation. And this would be the ta-da graph that you were totally missing.
You're doing a great job.
Just think amazing downward trend of a bar graph. Over the last 2 years, we've actually seen a decrease in overall acreage. So this is the first year since 2019 that we have been under 1,000 acres of Lingbia within the lake, which is, last year I thought Mother Gaston was messing with me and it was gonna pop up this year and I was gonna have to explain it, but it didn't. It decreased about 350 acres last year. This year it went down just over 200. So we are going in the right direction, and it's super exciting to see that kind of trend. Another trend that's showing the success of these treatments, when we go and we throw the rakes, with Lingbia, we kind of get a density estimate of the mat, right? You pull that rake up and it's full of Lingbia, you got a Medusa on your rake, that's a very dense mat. If you throw it and there's just a little bit of Lingbia, so you can tell that it's there, but it's not in like a really robust mat form, that's trace. And over the last 3 years, what we're seeing is our dense mats are staying steady. However, our trace mats are increasing. So that medium, moderate mat density is now moving towards being in the trace. It's moving to be less dense and not more dense. So that's showing that, again, these treatments are working, and it's another really cool thing to see on this graph that you if you look at the distribution of Lingbia, you may say, whoa, Jess, that distribution looks about the same as it did last year. How did we go down so much in acreage? Well, think about it like if we have a 5-acre cove. And 2 years ago, we had 20 dots in there. So the model's estimated 5 acres of Lingbia in this one spot. Fast forward to this year, now we only have 2 spots. And so that model is going to estimate about half an acre for each spot. So now you've gone from a 5-acre to 1 acres, but your distribution, it's still there. It's still going to take a while to completely get rid of the mat. So our distribution looks about the same, but the acreage isn't, and the density of the mat isn't. So I didn't want you to think I was fooling you when you look at the map at home, as I know all of you are. You're going to go home and see this. And I had a QR code for the treatment plans are live. We're targeting just at 500 acres this year. So that is our target. That's been our target for the last couple of years, and we are going to target that this year. So we were going to do something. See, you try to switch things up. The universe is not like switching up. I was going to go into second part of the presentation to kind of give you, this is not, the last 5 years we've had operational Lingbia treatments. It's been going great. That's the snapshot that most of you see. What you don't see is that this has really been a decade-long journey, and a lot of research went into tweaking these treatment protocols so that they are the most effective that they can be in Gaston. Because Lingbia treatments, there's a lot of environmental variables and factors that go into it. And it's Lingbia. It doesn't like to play nice. It likes to mix things up, keep me on my toes. And so Lingbia and Gaston is going to respond differently to treatment protocols as, say, Norman or Baden Lake. So you really have to dial in for your specific system what works. And you can see the grass, you can see that it really is working. I was so excited to share that with you tonight. But I'm not going to go into the research, of course, because that would just be silly without a presentation. So, real quick and to the point, and if we have any questions, I can take them, and I will leave my computer up here for QR scanning. On the right is your Lingbia treatment maps. On the left will be your hydrilla treatment maps. If you treat it very nicely, John, and I would only get one. You have to buy me another one. But is there any questions on any of the treatment plans that you saw tonight? I did my best.
I have a question.
Okay, one and then two.
In the past, there's been some issues about certain counties not funding treatment. Is that still the case? Do you know?
That would be a lead control council question.
Okay.
I'm just a
Yeah,
biologist.
I can answer that. I'm the treasurer of the Weed Control Council. And this current fiscal year was the first year in, I think, 4 that Halifax has stepped up and has provided the full request of $116,000. So we started off this fiscal year last July with all 5 counties on board. Took a lot of work to get there, okay, but we got that in hand. And
There you go.
Virginia Beach continues to fund. Their funding is paid by the CPI, so that's gradually increasing every year. That's good. But just to give you a sense and idea of what we're talking about, the Weed Council is spending $1.5 million a year treating hydrilla and Lingbia.
Wow.
Well, that's great news. I'm a Halifax resident and a Lingbia farmer.
Everybody make t-shirts?
So when you see your county commissioners, be sure, Jimmy Silver is now, he's also on the Weed Control Council. He's representing the Lake District.
Yeah, it's okay.
And you can thank him.
I will. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hey, do you release the carp fish in all the same place, or are they different areas?
It's in different areas depending on the year. This year, they will all go into Pea Hill Creek because that's where most of the hydrilla is located this year.
They'll all go to Peel Creek, okay.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. For grass carp stocking, are we gonna put all the fish, are we gonna stock them in one location? And the answer is yes, and they will be stocked in Pea Hill Creek this year.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions about this water willow.
Okay.
And
Questions
one of
about
them's kind
water
of directed at everybody in this room. Does everybody in this room like having that on their shoulders, the water willow? You pretty happy with it?
What's the question?
No.
Are you happy with having water willow on your shoreline?
No.
Oh, so you got a couple yeses, but the majority is like a no. So my question is, I've been using this lake almost since it was put here. I've been here my whole life. That was not here, okay? That was not in Lake Gaston originally. And this lake thrived pretty good without it. Now, hydrilla was brought here. I don't know how. Somebody brought it. And that's bad stuff. But it seems to me like when you really put the effort out to kill the hydrilla, which they did do a good job, finally, took a long time. Then all of a sudden, here comes that water willow, and it's hard for me to believe that that water willow encompassed the entire shoreline of Lake Gaston just naturally. So I get these emails, and it seemed to me like the volunteers in the Lake Gaston Association were they involved with distributing water willow throughout this lake.
Okay, where'd you get, what emails are you talking about?
The ones you sent me, the ones I got right here.
Okay, I'd enjoy seeing these emails with this misinformation.
Oh, this is misinformation.
Yes,
But
sir.
what it said was, and I can read it to you.
I'm sure you can. All right, let's get this straight. First off, there's a habitat enhancement project.
That's right.
Okay, let me finish.
Okay.
That North Carolina Wildlife is cooperating with NC State and the LGA on propagating native vegetation.
Mhm.
Water willow is not one of the species that has been planted in this project. Okay? As hydrilla has come under control, not kill, not eradicate, control. We are gonna live with a population of hydrilla on Lake Gaston forever. There will be some hydrilla here, okay? As hydrilla has come under control, the natives are increasing. They are helping to utilize the nutrients that are here in the soil of the lake. Native vegetation is beneficial. It offsets the hydrilla. It can help stabilize the shoreline. It helps control erosion. It utilizes those nutrients. We want to see a balanced lake ecosystem with more natives, including water willow, and hydrilla and limbia under control. That is our long-term objective. But water willow, just to clarify, we planted whitewater lily, we planted spatterdock, I can go on, okay? But water willow was not one of them. When the Roanoke River was impounded, there was some water willow here. As the Roanoke River changed and evolved over time, became a reservoir system with stable, relatively stable water level, that has helped proliferate water willow. If you go to Carr's been here, what, 10 years longer than Gaston? You will not see the population of water willow that you do in Gaston, because Carr level fluctuates. It does not allow for that water willow population to increase. So, everybody, my wife will tell you, she doesn't like water willow. On Dominion shoreline, it's not our shoreline, okay? Let's be clear about that, it's Dominion shoreline. But it has a benefit to the lake, provides habitat for fish, as well as stabilizing the shoreline.
Yeah,
I don't think the fish have had a problem with
I understand what you're saying.
Fishermen, right?
I fish more than probably anybody in this room.
Well, then you see the benefits to water.
I also
No,
see the
no.
negatives too, because I didn't have problems catching fish back in
They
1975.
still don't have problems.
And we didn't have that. What I want to know, you got this lady right here that's extremely knowledgeable. And I have looked, I was here in 23 when you had that meeting in here, and you talked about it. So, I want to know, how did the water willow just explode on its own? I mean, you got water willow all the way from the back of Carr Dam all the way to Gaston Dam. And I can kind of understand things go downhill. They go with the flow. But how does it go upstream?
Well, one thing about Gaston that's kind of different than other lakes is that you maintain a constant water
Yep.
level, okay? That is an amazing environment for plants. So Carr doesn't have the water willow because the shoreline will dry at some points and then come back up. It can't survive that. It can't sustain in that kind of environment. Water willow is also very good at moving around on its own. If you'll see, it'll have large mats that will float down and get entangled in something else, establish itself, and there we go. It's got runners, so that's why when it establishes itself somewhere, it goes, okay? I get it. When we're talking about aquatic plants, especially natives, it depends on whose glasses you're looking through, right? If you're a homeowner, I can see sometimes it's not what you want on your shoreline. But I'm a biologist, and from an aquatic ecosystem perspective, they are very good. They said everything that Jeff just mentioned in nutrient entrapment and stabilization, water clarity. I will say with the fishing, because I was a fisheries biologist, the aquatic plants are not your problem in Lake Gaston. Your fishery, especially your largemouth bass fishery, is changing because somebody introduced Alabama bass into the lake.
Okay.
And so there's a lot going on in the water that's just not the aquatic plants. The aquatic plants is what you can see, so you can see it and can point fingers at that, but that is not what's impacting your largemouth bass population out here.
No.
The problem is when it takes over your shoreline, you can't get your boat out, and they'll not allow you to do anything about it.
I was like, that's
Let's
not me.
move on.
To the next topic.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
let's move on, right?
Yeah, because,
Because you don't wanna hear it.
I mean, you know, there's
Well, there are
nothing,
other people here that have other questions.
I understand,
So don't
but I
jeopardize
think a lot of
it.
people in here want to understand about the water willow. There's no problem with having it. It's like you've got an acceptable level of hydro before you're gonna put a push out to really do something about it. So as long as you don't have but 150 acres, everything's cool. You know, you ain't gonna bother with it. But there's no limit to that plant. There's no limit. If it encompassed the entire shoreline every inch, that would be the goal of water willow survival. But there's the people who live on this lake and like to enjoy their little bit of property they have out there, even though you're right, we don't own it. Dominion owns it. They let us use it. But one reason that the property is so valuable on Lake Gaston is the reason that it does not fluctuate. It's not like Carl Lake. It's not like Rock Rapids Lake. I know guys in Rock Rapids Lake, they can't even launch their boat right now because the water's so low. But there should be some sort of agreement or some sort of moderation into limiting, I mean, how much is enough of the water well?
I appreciate you using this as a platform, but I will also say that this is LGA, this is NC State.
Yeah.
I have nothing to do, LGA has nothing to do with what you can and can't do with the water willow on your shoreline. So you may be voicing your platform at the wrong individuals.
I reckon you're right.
So,
Let's move on to the next question.
I appreciate your questions and your comments, really do. Thank you.
I just never heard of Southern Naiad, and I wondered what's that's good for.
I can show you.
Yes, sign now. It's like Christmas.
It's like, don't touch it, if you touch it, it might go away.
The one that comes out of the.
Okay, so Southern Naiad, I have not seen it in Lake Gaston the way it was in there this year. It was, it got me a couple of times as well when we first started seeing it. It is a boomer bust kind of plant, and I can tell you that in other systems, they saw a big expansion of it this year too. So there was some kind of environmental push that made the Southern Naiad sprout maybe earlier and was able to outcompete all the other summer species, but I don't know if it was, we didn't have a cold enough winter, maybe the spring started a little earlier, yeah. So this is your Southern Naiad, see how and it can cause, it can create a really big, thick monoculture bed, that it is in this general area. So it may be that next year we don't see it. I'm not quite sure how that's gonna, I'm not quite sure about this one.
And Jessica, that's the picture, as you just pointed out, it's a bit misleading. You have a single specimen, and you'll usually see that.
In the big stand.
That looks like what's in
And if you live in this area, it probably is.
I mean, I pulled some out.
This freeze
Do you have any other questions? Judy?
Is there anything worse than Libya to have at your dock or on your shoreline?
I guess that depends on your opinion, but my opinion would be no. I was a fisheries biologist before I came over to do aquatic plant management, and I used to have really cool presentations with big fish, and my son thought it was real cool, and then he comes in and it's Lingbia pictures that I have on my presentations, and he's like, I'm not cool anymore. He goes away. So I remember being out here doing gill nets and pulling my gill nets out because I was helping out the biologist, and I'm like, what is this? And you can have my nets. I don't know what this is. Little did I know that it was going to become my life. I don't know what I did wrong, but here I am.
Jessica, we have a question over here about treating southern naiad. Want to talk about that, or if you don't feel comfortable, Jeff or I will talk to it.
About treating southern naiad. So again, that goes down back to the SMP and what they will, it's a native species, and so it goes to what they will allow you to treat or not treat. There's restrictions when it comes to natives on when and where you can treat them.
So currently, southern naiad, if it's preventing you from accessing your boat in and out of your boathouse, your permitted boathouse.
Any weed.
Any native vegetation, but we're talking about southern naiad, you can have that treated. The Weed Council does not treat native vegetation. However, you can have private treatments done. Now, so 10-foot wide in and out of your boat dock. And Tracy from PLM, for example, he's authorized by Dominion to validate that requirement. Now, I'll say something else. Because of the work that the LGA and the Lake Gas and Weed Control Council has been doing during the review of the shoreline management plan, we work closely with Dominion to expand the ability to treat natives to a certain extent. Now, I'm going to caveat that with FERC has not yet approved their plan. It's in the process. Hopefully, if FERC approves what Dominion has put into the shoreline management, because of the LGA and the Weed Council's efforts working with Dominion, it will allow you to not only treat a 10-foot wide area in and out of your boathouse for your boat, but a 10-foot perimeter around your permitted boathouse
And the structure.
and the structure.
The structure itself, as long as it's permitted, licensed structure, you will be allowed to remove or treat the aquatic vegetation.
Native vegetation.
Regardless of the vegetation.
But that is until FERC gives the final stamp of approval, we're kind of in this, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing.
When is that expected?
So the submittal was the last part of January. We were hoping within the 60 to 90 day range. I mean, as we're entering the 1st of April. So we're expecting a response at any time. We have within 90 days to post that, approve that, but that's gonna also involve posting it online. We're gonna revamp our website. It'll also be involved with, I'm gonna pull a meeting with, we have an annual contractors and realtors meeting, and I'm trying to pull surveyors in on that as well. So that will be conducted, and then everything will try to launch at that same time frame. And like you said, there will be a mass communication. If you're very familiar with seeing the S&P announcements, went out through 7 newspapers, the LGA posted it, the Water Safety Council posted it. It will be known to the public, these are Dominion's new rules and guidelines.
And I want to emphasize, that includes water willows.
Water will,
Yes,
right.
any vegetation.
Around
10 foot
structure, not including the walkway.
That's exactly right.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff.
10-foot perimeter around the permitted boathouse does not include the the walkway or the shoreline.
So back to the question about the shoreline, the water willow will remain on the shoreline. That absorbs the wave energy and protects our shoreline. So the water willow will remain on the shoreline.
And for those of you that don't know this gentleman, his name is Josh Simpson. He is Dominion's shoreline management manager. He's been with Dominion now a couple of years in that position, and we really welcome him. He's done an awful lot of good work for the ladies, so he's your contact with Dominion on that.
You say he's just gonna come and help
We got a couple volunteers in there. We got my comrades.
Keep it rolling. Any other questions? This is your chance to ask. Maybe you'll get a good answer. Maybe you get an answer you don't like. Make it happen.
Dominion got a question.
I have a question. I'm with Dominion now. I was with another company up until July of last year. And dealing with native vegetation. Last year, everybody knows we had a lot of rain, heavy rain events in June, followed by a lot of heat for weeks. When I was involved with that at Hyco Lake in Mayo, they saw an explosion of native weeds in areas they hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Now, they were native weeds in certain areas they always had. And they kind of controlled it on Hyco, kind of what we're talking about gas. They did see an explosion in areas where they hadn't seen it previously. And we had the same effect here, a lot of heavy rains and a lot of heat afterwards. And that was kind of conducive to letting that weed grow in areas that you hadn't seen before. Is that what we saw like that? Or
I don't know what the exact environmental factors are. We're talking about on other energy lakes when we've had a heavy rain followed by warm weather, the aquatic plants really explode at that point. He was asking if that was what was the cause of the southern naiad, because we had the same conditions last year at Gaston. And the answer is I don't know. I know that it's an environmental factor because it's happening not only on Lake Gaston, but through other Duke reservoirs, because that is who I have a chit chat with. So it's happening in other places. So something environmental happened. One of the things that NC State wants to look at is looking at some of those growth factors and seeing what kind of drives the southern naiad to grow at certain times. So maybe we have a better idea of why it did it this year.
Do we think the extreme cold that we had for a series of weeks will be beneficial at all, or?
Time will tell. Yes, I'm so bad at repeating questions. The extreme cold that we experienced over the winter, what kind of impact will it have on our aquatic plants next year? And time will tell. They're not as much with like terrestrials, when they have biomass up and it hard freezes and it impacts them. It's a little different with the aquatics species.
And how about the drought and the water clear that we've enjoyed over the last 6 months?
Yeah, Jeff brings up the point that you've had really great water quality, water clarity for the last 6 months too. So that would definitely have an impact on one of the species. One of the interesting things is it kind of depends on who starts to grow first, right? So in areas where we had hydrilla this year, we had southern naiad everywhere, and it probably was because it sprouted, took up the nutrients, took up that sunlight, and the hydrilla tubers were like, not this year. It's not our year to do this. So they do have competition amongst themselves, and that's why, especially with the southern naiad, we've got a lot of mixed stands. There's eelgrass in there, there's southern naiad in there, there's hydrilla, all in the same bed of shoreline.
So we've got eelgrass at the mouth of Eel Creek. Is that native or non-native?
The question is eelgrass native or non-native? It is native. So if you Google it, my favorite thing, when people are like, I Googled this and I know what I'm talking about. There are, in Florida, not you guys, not you guys. So they are having issues with hybridization and invasive eelgrass in Florida and other states. And you'll hear rockstar thrown around. It was the aquarium trade brought them in. That is not what's occurring in Gaston. We have the native population. We have sent it off for genetic testing, and it has all come back as native. And so if it starts changing, and we start thinking it's going in a different direction or hybridizing or something, we'll do genetic testing again just to make sure.
So, and again, this is not green, vibrant looking grass in the water. It's covered in some type of brown film, algae, whatever.
Yeah, it's not the pretty aquarium.
No.
Yeah, the pretty aquarium ones are the invasives and the rock stars and the ones that you want to have in your aquarium because they're so bright and vivid. We had a grad student working on it, and when she would pull out those out of the trash cans, it was like neon green. It was crazy compared to our native.
Do you have to pay to get somebody to come identify your weeds?
Nope, you can contact us, and there is several ways to do it. You can email the environmental committee at LGA, and they have several people that will come around. If I'm on the lake, I'll come check it out if you let me know what the address is. Usually, if you just send a picture, we can identify it pretty quickly if it's out of the water. No.
We're out there regularly. I've been out a dozen times already. So as Jessica says, if you contact the LGA, Tammy Clark usually fields those. Go to the Lake Gas Weed Control website that you can send a note that will get to Jessica and also send a note that will get to me. So we have multiple ways for this to happen. Recently, somebody on Nextdoor was unhappy that they had submitted, so I contacted the person and went out there. So we are very willing to respond to your requests for assistance in identifying what kind of vegetation you've got.
I just want everyone to see the graph of Lingia going down. This is like big ta-da, ta-da!
So I want to go back to something you said about some of the other weeds may be keeping the hydrilla dormant because of the being prolific. Are the treatment plans or chemicals for hydrilla and then those other weeds the same or different?
Depends on the species.
Okay.
Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So sometimes you'll have some side effects and impacts to our natives. Yes, Judy.
She always knows my name. This graph that is, you've got up there, and the Libya management, the amount of it in the lake decreasing. I know that you spoke to earlier, a long time ago, about the hydrilla decrease, and that Gaston was unique in that. And is Gaston unique in this Libya management, in the reduction of the Libya, or is that happening elsewhere in the world?
We are the first to get the ball rolling in North Carolina. I'll say that because we have had such success, Norman's contacted us, Wiley's contacted us, Mountain Island, Baden, like it's kind of trickling down to these other systems that have Lingia. We've created a really good system that hopefully we'll be able to transfer to these other systems, maybe with a little tweaking. So, but yeah, our name is out there. More so than I thought. With phone calls that I get.
Jessica, can you talk about some filamentous green algae? We're seeing a lot of that this spring. It's not Lingia, but some people think it is. Would you just chat with us?
So about right now, when the water's chilly, sun's out, a native filamentous algae called Spirogyra is going to come out, and it is a neon green. They call it silk algae because if you pick it up, it's really silky, It looks really cool under a microscope. It has spirals and diamonds.
I don't think anybody here cares about
I'll nerd out a little bit, but it's native. Once the water starts warming up, you'll start seeing it go away because it doesn't like that really hot water, but it does like right when it's chilly and sunny out. You'll also see, we have another algae that looks like Lingbia. It's called Cladophyra. It just doesn't get as thick as Lingbia. And so sometimes that gets confused. You gotta look at that one under a microscope. I can't even sometimes tell the difference.
Well, ask some questions, I know you've got some.
Jim, what was the name of that lake that, you sent that email that saw a large increase in Libya, was it?
Smith Mountain Lake.
Smith Mountain?
Are they seeing it a lot in there too?
A lot of Lindia there.
It's not, it's
Small
a
sample
site
size,
of
but
bacteria, not
high
specifically
Coming this way. Everything goes over that dam, comes this
a lot of
way.
difference on the bacteria.
Yes.
Is the black soot on the sandy bottom
I would have to see. It does look like black, like fur along the shoreline. And sometimes it'll start moving up to that shoreline, and sometimes it'll just kind of stay.
This is out further than the shoreline. It's like maybe a drift.
That would be one that I would have to see, because it could just be detritus that's kind of built up in those areas as well. You want to pick it up and smell it. If it smells really musty, then it's Lingbia. Gotta get the scent
I scanned both of the ones with the ArcGIS maps on India and Hydrilla. Did you say there would be another QR code we could use to get your presentation as well?
The presentation will be posted.
Posted, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we will post those links to the Weed Council website tomorrow, so it will be available that way too also.
It'll be on the LGA website, and then when we edit this video, which I don't know how my son's gonna do it, but he will try to superimpose the slides as you're talking. I'll have to work with him. He'll have to read my
That is a big task.
So Jessica, are you aware of any other large reservoir that has a vegetation management program that utilizes working alongside an association with hundreds of volunteers that conduct a survey, that has a organization that captures 5 different counties across 2 different states, that is able to successfully manage vegetation?
No, the closest thing that I've seen is Lake Wiley down in South Carolina. No, it's not, it's Watery. Lake Watery down in South Carolina is being Lingbia. And so I spent a phone conversation with that gentleman, talking about our volunteers and how we worked everything and identifying it, and they are trying to start doing that, but they are just focusing on Lingbia. They're not focusing on anything else. They're just trying to figure out the distribution. That's the only other volunteer-driven large system survey that I can think of.
What are they doing out in the west? Do they have this type of problem out there?
They have a different type of Lingbia.
How dare they?
Another Google fact. There's freshwater versions, there's marine versions. The marine versions are highly toxic. So when you see it and it says toxic, I guarantee you it's in Australia and in the marine environment. So I like to tell people, don't always, make sure you're looking at the right Lingbia. And it's the woolly eye.
As far as looking at the QR code and showing you're getting a Lingbia treatment, the chemical makeup's going to change from this year to last year, so we don't have to worry about notifying people with in-lake sprinklers, you know.
But
pumps and stuff.
for Lingbia, products that we use have no restrictions. There's no irrigation, there's no,
Okay.
swimming. Hydrilla, they will post, the application company will post on your docks the restrictions that are associated with it.
7-day water restriction.
For hydrilla?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we went through that before, but now we got Lingbia, so.
It tends to go that way, unfortunately.
What is your go-to product for
What is our go-to product? So our go-to product for Lingbia is a chelated copper product called Captain XTR, and it's an algicide. So we combine it with a surfactant called AMP, or AMP. And so the two of them together, the Captain XTR is driving through the sheath and trying to get those viable cells, and the AMP is increasing contact time. So it's like an adhesive. Yes.
Knowing what you know about Lake Aston, and that we spend $1.5 million a year on aquatic vegetation management.
Mhm.
If you could have an open checkbook, how much would you spend?
How much would I spend?
She's a researcher too, man. That'd be
I know.
Well, honestly,
Biologist perspective, but.
with this kind of trend, I would say, let's see where we are right now and see if that continues to keep decreasing. I don't know if,
But that's one item.
you know, a couple of years ago, I was like, yeah, we need to put more into it because the population's so high, but now it's starting to decrease. Let's see, if it gets under 500, you know, then we wouldn't need any more. And I do want to say with the application, with the Lingbia product, that you have to be a licensed applicator to apply it, that you cannot just go and put it on your dock. So don't go and Amazon it and put it in your water and say that I said to do that. Amazon just went.
That's true with any aquatic.
With any aquatic
Herbicide,
herbicide, yeah.
algicide.
You cannot put chemicals in the lake acid.
Copper sulfate.
What?
What?
Copper sulfate.
What is that?
Good, you can keep it that way.
You're gonna have just like a normal monthly treatment, most likely for Lingbia?
Yes, so the treatments for Lingbia are going to be the exact same as they've been for the last 5 years. They come out once a month, it's mid-month. You'll see the airboats out. They have an injector system that's on power poles. So you'll see the power poles going up and down behind it. And that is going to the contour of the lake so that the product is released 2 feet above that map. And it'll have a bright blue color. It's totally fine, that's just the color of copper. And that will dissipate, and there's no restrictions associated with it. Anything else? Thank y'all for your patience in our technical issues.